What really was cool about talking to him is that, I've had 4 or 5 conversations with him now. What is so interesting about him is that he really has not bought into. There are some questions he's not going to answer, but he hasn't bought into. I'm going to give you a line of garbage speak.
Yeah.
He's going to pretty much answer your question. Hey, it must have been cool for you last year to accept the MVP award in your hometown. And it was, I wish I gave a video acceptance. I wanted to be playing in the game. And like he wasn't happy, and he wasn't going to say, oh, yeah, really happy for my mom and my coaches and all that stuff. He wasn't going to say that because he wasn't happy. So I do appreciate that about him.
Peter, you've talked to him, you said 4 or 5 times now. It's something that's jumped out to me, and even in your interview here, just this past week. When he does seem, more outgoing, more confident as a person in the interviews, things like that. Does that jump out to you, or am I off base there?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, last year, twice after games, I think I talked to him 3 times last year, twice after games. And if you go over there and talk to him and there's no notebook out, he's going to tell you everything that just happened.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. He knows he's the spokesman for the team, so he's going to be a bit careful. But if you go to him and just say, hey, let's talk about that last drive, tell me everything that happened, he's going to tell you everything that happened, And that's one of the things I appreciate about him.
Peter, he's salty, and rightfully so, for not getting to the Super Bowl last year. They were the best team in the NFL until the Titans knocked them off in the divisional round. They are now 0-2 in the postseason with Lamar Jackson. Chris and I were talking about this yesterday, how the pressure will mount as they continue to go to the playoffs until they get that first playoff win. And you talked both to Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. Did you sense any regret whatsoever that they kind of took their foot off the gas week 17 and didn't have Lamar Jackson out there and gave him what amounted to 3 weeks off before that game against the Titans?
Well, it's the same thing that Tony Dungy always used to say about the curse of week 17. Mike McCarthy also said it before Aaron Rodgers lost to the Giants at home. And I think those teams will always say, I judge my team. And I have to tell you, Mike, I didn't ask either guy about this, so, to be fair. But I do think that in week 17 last year, Lamar Jackson was a kind of a beaten up guy. He wasn't injured per se, and if they needed the game, he could have played. But I do think that they felt like he needed that time. Now, Will they do it differently this year? I certainly think they should do it differently, because I think taking 20 days off in between games is a curse, not a blessing.
So, all right, after talking to Lamar, Harbaugh, these are Harbaugh's, edgy guy, I'm sure chomping at the bit. What was the big takeaway about the attitude of the Ravens that you got from both of these guys?
In some ways, Chris, it's, look, it's easy to sit here and say, well, honestly, with the exception of losing Marshall Yanda, and Hayden Hurst, who was a good contributing player, but Yanda's the big loss. They really didn't have a bad loss. And they added probably the best run, rush 3-4 type end in football, at least for the next couple of years, in Calais Campbell. J.K. Dobbins, underrated guy, I think, coming out of Ohio State. And the kid from Texas, Duvernay, who I think could step in and play 700 snaps. He is an NFL-ready player from what the Ravens think. They're a better team. But you also say, Chris, and this is really significant, look at all the things you got to worry about. This is if you're worrying about COVID, if you're worrying about how your team is going to handle Black Lives Matter, if you worry about all of these things in addition to football, and then you don't have preseason games, Who's going to handle that best? The team that handles that best has got a huge advantage. And I'll also say this. The team that doesn't have any COVID positives, over the course of the season, or who has very few, that's the team that's going to have a great chance to win this year.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.